Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I do pray that everyone is blessed on today. This is our Hebrew class course 02, and we're going to learn the final forms in Hebrew. In the Aleph Bait, there are letters that are in their final forms that you need to know. When you see a word, it's the same letter, it's just written differently. And so we're just going to take the time and just learn only that on today. But before we get started, always go back. If you're starting right now, I do have a Hebrew class course, Introduction to Hebrew According to Scripture. That is 00. And then we have pronunciation of the Aleph Bait, the alphabet, 01. And this is 02. Be sure. So my husband always say, you don't start learning or you don't start reading a book in the back of the book to understand what's going on in the book. You go to the beginning. So I want to encourage you, if you come across this video, go back and hear and listen, Shema, to 00 and 01 to catch up, and then you will understand why we're starting here at 02. All right, so we're going to get going here. As always, I'm going to read and excuse me, I got a little cough on today. The prayer blessings before teaching. Always going to read. We're going to bless the class before the teaching, and we're going to bless the class after the teaching. So before teaching, it says, Baruch atah Yahweh Ham Baruch Baruch atah Yahweh Ham Baruch La Olam Vaed. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu Melech Ha'olam Esher Bakar Banu Mikol Hemim Va Lanu Et Torato. Baruch atah Yahweh Notin Ha-Torah. And what I said in Hebrew was, I said, bless you, Yahweh, who is blessed. Bless you, Yahweh, who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our creator, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples and given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who gives the Torah. Let's go to Psalms 119 and let's recite the Aleph Bait. Psalms 119, we're going to recite the Bait, and then we'll go into the final forms, and then I will write the final forms, and so you can distinguish, all right, between forms, the alphabet that's written in a word, and the alphabet, same letter that's written at the end of a word. You have to notice these in understanding Hebrew, especially those of you who are ministers and you are teachers, however you deliver the word. All right, we all study to show ourselves approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needed not be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. So we all study, and there's no way in your study that you're not going to come across a word, all right, and you want to know more in depth of that word, and it's going to lead you to study that word in Hebrew. All right, even though the New Testament was written in Greek, and as you research words in Greek because of the New Testament, when you go into the Greek, The Greek will always most likely refer you back to the original Hebrew word and the in-depth of that word and the translation of that word and the transliteration of that word. And so this is why this is important, because as we study, all right, and as you begin to notice Hebrew, there are words that are similar in writing, and I don't want us to get off track, all right, and thinking that a hay is a het and a het is a hay, all right. And then in final form, we're going to notice that there is a letter that looks almost like a wall or a vowel. All right. And so you need to know these little simple distinguishes, all right, at the end of words. All right, let's go to Psalms 119. All right. Above Psalms 119, you have what we call an Aleph. Look at the symbol. All right. I want you to start paying notice to the symbol. All right. Look at the Aleph and look at the line. All right. And look at the line above it and look at the line beneath. All right. You got to study. All right. You got to study these symbols. All right. Because if you don't, there are letters, all right, that look similar in form. All right. Go above 119 and 9. All right. The Bait. All right. The Bait. Okay. Bait, or as a B. Also, the Bait can be said with a V sound, as in victor or victory or vicious. All right. So it can be Bait and it can be as Vite. All right. Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you some nuggets concerning what will distinguish, all right, what will distinguish when a Bait is being used and when the B is being used and when the V is being used. All right. I'm going to go back over that with you. Let's go to 119 above 17. All right. That is a gimel. A gimel. All right. As in go. All right. Or going. Or gopher. All right. A g sound. All right. Go above 119 and 25. All right. That is a dialect. A dialect. All right. As in door. Or as in domain. All right. That is dialect. Go above Psalms 119 and 33. That is a hay. And look at the hay. All right. And look at the opening. Because the cat is similar. We're going to come across the cat. The cat is similar to the hay. All right. And so the hay has an opening, as I call opening window or opening door or opening entrance into the hay. Go above Psalms 119 and 41. That is a wall. All right. A wall. All right. And is also can be pronounced with a V. Again, as in victory, as in victor, as in violin. And I will go back and explain the wall and the vol. All right. Go above 119 and 49. That is a zayin. That is a zayin, as in Zora. All right. Or as in my spiritual daughter's name, Zipporah. All right. And Zipporah was the young lady that Moses married. All right. Zipporah. All right. Go above 119.57. Remember, I just pointed out the hay. Look at the het. Look at the cat, and you can see that almost, if you don't look at it closely, they are very familiar. All right. And so the cat has, though, a closed door or a closed window or a closed entrance. And I'm going to go back and explain the hay and the cat. All right. Some nuggets concerning these letters. Go above 11965. We have the tet. All right. The tet. All right. And the tet is almost, what makes me remember the tet is that it looks like an upside down tooth. All right. If you look at it, it looks almost, when you turn a tooth upside down and how it kind of looks. And it reminds me that when I see this, all right, I think about tooth, which begins with a T, and it also favors, all right, a tooth. And so that's how I remember that this is a tet. All right. Go above 11973. Again, in your Bibles, all right, you are going to have a J. All right. But I need to explain the J, that since we're studying Hebrew, okay, since we're studying Hebrew, you must understand, okay, there is no letter J in Hebrew, and I'll go back and explain that more in depth. All right, but that would be a Y. That would be a Y. All right, and so you'll pronounce it not Jod, but you will pronounce it with a Y. Yod. Yod. All right. And I will go back and explain that more in depth. For right now, I just always want to go over the Hebrew Aleph Bait with you. Go above 119 and 81. That is a Kaf. All right. We have 3 different letters that are similar in sound. Okay. So you need to really do association with the Kaf, and then we're going to go to a word a letter with Kof. All right, and then we have the Chet. They all sound similar. All right, but the Kaf, see my formation of my mouth is Kaf. All right, then it is like a backward C. Do word association. It's a backwards C. All right. Kaf. And then we have kof. And then we have kef. All similar in sound. And these little nuggets will help you, all right, in distinguishing letters in Hebrew when you get Hebrew words all together. That's because when the Hebrew letters come together and form a word, it seems intimidating. What I'm trying to do is take out of the intimidation that we all, once we begin to read, all right, the scroll, so to speak, it looks intimidating. I want to take away the intimidation so that you will know and can know that you can learn Hebrew, all right? But you have to take the baby steps, all right? Take the baby steps. It is going to benefit you so much in your learning, and it's going to cause you not to repeat and go back in your learning. I don't want you to get frustrated. All right. Now go above 119 and 89. It is the Lamed. What makes me remember this is a Lamed is that it looks like a leg. It looks like a leg, and leg begins with a. All right. And so the symbol looks like a leg with a knee to me. And so with a Lamed, you can kind of remember. I want to do some association because these associations will help you read the word like smoothly, like we all wish to. All right. When we see that Hebrew word, we want to no, I'm in YouTube. I'm recording on YouTube. All right. My husband's in class with me, you all. He was looking for the class page. All right. Go to 119.97. All right. That is a mem. That is a mem. All right. Go above 119.105. We have a noon. All right. Noon. And I want to point out something. The mem, all right, and the noon is what we're going to study in depth today. That's the focus. All right. Go above 119.113 is the Samek. Now, the Samek pay close attention to, because when we begin to study the final forms, all right, then we're going to have to distinguish between the final form of the mem and the final and a samek. A samek doesn't have a final form, but we're going to have to distinguish between the two, and I'm going to show you how to distinguish between the two. It's very important. Listen, I know I'm going slow, and I know this seems so elementary. I know this seems like kindergarten, all right? But if you learn these little simple nuggets, I'm telling you, you will flow in reading Hebrew, okay? All right, go above 1921, we have a ayin. We have a ayin. Now, the ayin and the zadi, all right, we're going to have to distinguish, all right? The zadi has a final form. And these final form, the zadi, right, the writing of the zadi and the final form of the zadi is so close to the ayin, all right, especially when you have the Hebrew letters written side by side, okay? Let's go above. Psalms 119 and 29. We have the pay. All right. And we're going to study more in depth about the pay. All right. Let's go above Psalms 119, 137. I just talked about the zadi. All right. The zadi. Pay close attention to the zadi. All right. We have 119, 145. Go above that. We have the kof. Remember, I pointed out the kaf that looks like a backwards C. Now we have a kof. We have a kof, and it looks like a P almost. In the English alphabet, it looks like a P, but it's kof. All right. Go above Psalms 119, 153. We have a resh. Remember, I went, and if you go back to the Hebrew class 01, I really stressed about pronunciation of the resh, which is going to be so hard for us to pronounce, all right, because you have to roll that R, all right, and it's difficult for me as well. Go above Psalms 119 and 161. We have the sheen. All right, which also can be pronounced without the H sound in it, without the sh. All right, but it can be pronounced just with the S sound, which is seen. When it's in a Hebrew word and you don't use the sh sound, all right, what will happen is, in looking up a word, you may think that it is a sheen when it may be a samek. Blessings unto you all. When it may be a samek. All right. Okay. So that's why I want us to distinguish. All right. Go above 119, 169. We have the tall. Remember, I pointed out the tet. All right. Look at the tall. All right. Now, the tall is an upside down. It's kind of familiar. It may be mistaken with, or sometime because it's a T sound. All right. That oftentimes when a tet should be used, we may use a tall. And that's where people may have difficulty in researching a word in Hebrew. I want to help you when this is all about research. All right. When we go to research that word to bring us more in depth to what we're studying as we're going to present it to the people. All right. Also look at the ta, which I'm going to point out. All right. It almost looks like a chet. It almost looks like a cat, but there's a distinguishing mark that will help you identify, all right, that is not, all right, that is not a chet, all right, that will help you understand that it is a taw. Okay, now let's go and let's do our final forms. All right, now a final form, when we begin to look at Hebrew words, all right, final forms are still the same letter. It's just that they will appear differently at the end of a word. So let's go and do our first final form. Remember I talked about the cough, all right? The cough, which is a backwards C, and I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna hold it up, and I probably should have turned the camera around so it don't appear backwards. So maybe if I write it backwards it will appear right. All right, Hebrew is written from right with your right hand, and you're gonna go left. Hebrew is written from right. We write from left to right. Hebrew is written from right to left. Okay, so we have a cough. All right, a cough, all right, has a final form. All right, so are you on? Are you looking at it? How does it appear? Does it appear backwards? It appears backwards, don't it? Oh, okay, I can write it right, I think. Let me rewrite it. I think it'll appear right if I rewrite it. All right, so. So a cough, all right. The original, well, no, that don't appear right. I got to write it backwards for y'all. I got to write it. Or I should turn the camera around. Maybe if I do that. Give me one moment, everybody. Do not get off. I'm just going to attempt to turn the camera around. All right. Let's see if I can turn this around. All right. Okay. So can you see me? Okay, let me see. Hold on, everybody. Okay, so show me how that appears. Okay, so I can't see you all. I had to turn it around. So a cough, all right. There's some things that I'm going to point out about the cough, okay? The cough is written, it looks like a backwards C. How does that look? Am I holding that right? Okay. All right. Yes. So a cough is written like a backwards C when it's used in a word. All right. But when we have a final form of cough, it almost looks like a dalet. All right. It almost looks like a dalet. This is the distinguishment I want to. And so a cough will appear. And it almost looks like also a wall. All right. Also a wall. So some distinguishing marks in the cough is that in a wall is written. Let me write it so we can distinguish. All right. And a dalet all right. So we have a cough. This will be in the beginning of a word if the word begins with a cough. All right. And it will appear in the middle of the word if it's a word that has a cough in it. But if there's a cough or a K sound or a K sound at the end of a Hebrew word, this will not be used, okay? This form right here, which is in red, will be used, all right? Now, the distinguishing mark that when you see it, all right, first of all, it's going to be used at the end of a Hebrew word. Secondly, a wall, all right, if you see it in a word, it has a line it's diagonal. A final cough, all right, is straight right here. Now, to distinguish it as from a dalet, even though a dalet line is straight right here, it will have an indentation. All right, it'll have an indentation with the line that's being extended from it, and it will sort of kind of indent in, and then it will go into a straight line. So that's what help you. This will help you all. Listen, this is where if you don't learn these simple rules to Hebrew, it's just like algebra. You cannot do algebra any other way than the instructions that are attached to algebra. If you try to do a formula that algebra has instructions to, and you try to do that formula any other way, you will not come out with the right answer. Listen, in Hebrew, there are instructions assigned to Hebrew understanding that do not change. And when a person tries to change the instructions that are attached with Hebrew, that will change the whole dynamic, all right, of what you're studying. You cannot change it, all right? You just have to study the rules that are attached with it. All right, so we have the cop. Also, all right, well, let me continue. So that's the cop. The next final form. The next final form is the mem. The next final form that we're going to study is the mem. Okay? The mem, all right. The mem almost looks like a cursive G, all right. Almost. All right. What I'm doing is modern block style. When you get into Hebrew, there are many fancy ways that you can write Hebrew. You can write Hebrew in cursive and many forms. I'm doing what they call block style. All right. The simplest form. Okay. The mem, all right. When a mem is being used in a word, all right, such as Shem, the word Shem, okay? If I use Shem, you know when we say in Hebrew, Hashem, Ha means the, and Shem, all right, means name. At the end of Shem is a M, all right? Is an M sound, right? All right? This form right here will not go at the end of Shem. All right. What will go at the end of Shem is what I call block style. All right. All right. It's block. All right. And I made it more block because I'm going to show you something. I made it more block so you will understand that the final M, the final mem that will be used in Shem is almost similar to a Samek. And I'm going to show you the difference. Remember I pointed that out? Is a Samek. A Samek, all right, a Samek, I'm going to show you the slightly difference in a Samek. The slightly difference, see how the final mem, all right, I blocked it more. The final Samek, when it goes, it almost is kind of rounder. It's not as blocked as a mem. And then as you draw your line and go down, all right, and then you draw your line, when you come up and instead of connecting right here, you kind of do an indentation. You do a slight indentation, and that will distinguish that from the Samek. You got to look for these because as you research, all right, in Hebrew, you may mistaken that word Shem may be a Samek when it's a mem. All right, you got to know these. All right. Now, the next letter, and I pray that I'm going slow enough, all right, to help you. The next final letter that we're going to study is a Nun. All right, is a Nun. So when you begin to look at Hebrew, let me always insert, I'm always going to insert some nuggets. When you begin to look up Hebrew words, all right, if you type in what is a Nun in Hebrew, people may type in N-O-O-N or N-U-N. In Hebrew, let me write this. In Hebrew, when we are translating from Hebrew into English, when they write it in English, that's not necessarily how it's going to be spelled in Hebrew. When you begin to research it in Hebrew, just to get you to pronounce it correctly. So you may see people write a Nun, all right, write it out so that you can pronounce it correctly, a Nun, all right, as noonday, N-O-O-N, or they may type in N-U-N, all right. That's just for pronunciation reasons. That is not how it will be spelled in Hebrew. For instance, in Hebrew, we're not going to have a Nun, Holam, Nun spelled out as Nun in Hebrew. When it's written in Hebrew, it's not going to say Nun, a Holam, all right, and a Nun. That's why I'm telling you, all right, this is where we're getting thrown off, all right? Now, the final Nun. Let me write the Nun that you will see if it's going to appear in the beginning of a Hebrew word or in the middle of the Hebrew word, all right? It almost looks like, all right, almost a half square, all right? A half square. We have A line. That's the noon. That's the Hebrew letter for noon. All right. In a Hebrew word, if it's going to be in the beginning or if it's going to be in the middle. Now, if the Hebrew letter noon is going to appear at the end of a word, as in the Hebrew letter noon, we have an N in the beginning and we have an N at the end. Noon is not going to be written, all right, with a regular N at the end. There is a final noon that you will use. That noon, again, I put in, all right, it almost looks like a wall and it almost looks like a dalet, all right, and it almost looks like a chet, all right. The noon has a slant, all right. It almost looks like a wall. Arva. Now, what will distinguish it, the length of this line is longer than a wall. If you want to distinguish it from a wall and a vol, if it's at the end, all right, it's going to have a line that's longer than a wall or a same letter vol. All right, like is in the name Yahweh, Yud Hey Wah Hey, Yud Hey Vah Hey. All right, it's going to have a longer line, and most likely, in most instances, a wall at the end of a Hebrew word. There are few words that will have a wall. There are few Hebrew words that will have a wall at the end of it. All right. And if, listen to me, if a Hebrew words want a V sound, most likely they will use the bait, the V of the bait. All right. These are some nuggets to help you. What is that? Is that letter a noon at the end? Or is it a wah or va? Or is it a dialect? All right. Those are some of the things most likely if it's at the end of a word. All right. As you look at it, it's going to be a final noon. All right. Let that be your first thought. It's at the end of a word. All right. It's most likely a noon. All right. As you're studying a word, let that be the first step. Then if that doesn't pan out, then go to the other letters that are similar to help you research that word. Okay. The next final word. Well, let me write out the noon in Hebrew so you'll know how it would look. A noon will look like this in Hebrew. The Hebrew letter noon written out will be N with the, and I got to explain this, all right, and the final noon, all right. Okay, so let me explain this. Look at all these that look alike. All right, how that look on there? Is it still looking okay? All right, okay. So the noon, we have the noon that will appear at the beginning. All right, look, we have a wall, but we're not pronouncing noon, all right, as na, wa, na. What we're doing is we're concentrating on this dot, which is a dagesh in Hebrew. We're going to study more in depth about dagesh. This wall is just here so that we can pronounce this dot. When a dot is in the middle of a wah, it is making a U sound. All right? A U sound, a vowel. When it is appearing above, it's making an O sound. Let me get that on there. We're going to go back and study more in depth. So we have noon, an N, all right, an N that's going to appear at the beginning of the word. We need this U sound. We're not focusing on, because this is a wah. This is just to help this so we can pronounce this, all right? So we need to pronounce a U. The focus is the dot. The wah is just being used so that we can focus on the dot. And see, this is where a lot of people are mistranslating the name of Yahweh. They're saying Yahuwah. You know why? Because they're thinking that this U, when the wah is being used as a U, they thinking that's how you say Yahweh's name. And that is an error in understanding. And that's where we come, where people are saying Yahuwah instead of Yahweh. They're using that U, all right, because the wah is being used to understand the U. But when we say Yahweh's name, that doesn't mean that you can't use a vowel in the place of a consonant of saying the tetragrammaton of Yahweh's name. All right. So then we have the final N. We're saying the Hebrew word noon. We have the final N. You see how this is longer? This line is longer. Now, the wah, they both have diagonal lines. All right. Most likely, all right, this line is final and is going to be longer. The wah is going to appear shorter. All right. And that is something to help you distinguish. We're going to go back and study vowels. Once you understand vowels and the dot placement in Hebrew letters, that will help you understand when the sound of a Hebrew letter, there are some Hebrew letters, the letter remains the same, but the sound will be different. All right. The next final letter that we're going to study is the pay. All right. The pay has a final form if it appears at the end of a Hebrew word. Okay. So the pay. Now, if you are researching the word, it may be written like this: pay or pay or pay. All right. People get in debate about this. All right. It's just to get you to pronounce that correctly. So it may be pay, P-E-Y, for pronunciation reasons, but not to spell in Hebrew. It may be pay as in payday. All right. Or it may be pay. All right. P-E-H, just for pronunciation. Now, the pay is written. You have, all right, kind of looks like a backwards small g. You know, it kind of looks like, if you turn that around, kind of looks like a backwards small g, and just that it doesn't have that connection right there. All right. And then the final form is still familiar. What you're going to distinguish is that it doesn't have the line across. This is the final, all right? And this is the pay that you will use, all right, in the beginning of a Hebrew word, as in if we was to say, let's see, well, if we say pay, if we say pay, all right, when we write pay, all right, we will use this to start out. But say like we want to say Aleph, all right, Aleph. At the end of the word Aleph, all right, it's a P or F sound. Remember I told you there are words, all right, it's a pay, but the sound changes. What we will use is the final at the word of Aleph, all right? Now, we have a line, we have a circle, and then just a line. There's no line right there, all right? Now, let me explain something. I'm going to go back and re-explain. What will determine, like remember I said Aleph, and a pay can take the sound of a P or as in Pharaoh, all right? Sound. Now, since it's Aleph, we have that F sound. How you know that is a F sound? Remember I told you, I just explained about the dagesh, dots. If there is a dot, all right? Now, if there is a dot in the P, all right, in the pay, all right, then the sound of it is PH or F sound, as in Pharaoh. If we was to write Pharaoh and they don't want us to say payroll, if they put a dot in it, then they want you to pronounce it as all right? At the end of a Hebrew word, Aleph, and they don't want you to say Aleph, all right? But they want you to say Aleph. They will put a dot in it majority of the time so that you can say Aleph. The dagesh, that dot, does a lot to Hebrew letters. The last final form, all right? The last final form. Oh, shoot. I got so much on this little table. The last final form is the Zadi. The Zadi. Remember I told you about that? All right. That's so hard. The Resh and the Zadi. T-S-C. Tzadi. Tzadi. As in Zabiot. As in Zabiot. All right. All right. So the Zadi. Let me write it out for pronunciation reasons only. All right. The Zadi, so you can pronounce it correctly, it'll be written with a Z-A-D-I, Zadi. All right. Also note, in Hebrew, there is no hard I sound. You know how we always say Zion, all right? It's actually Zion, all right? There's no hard I sound in Zion. And we're going to go back over this in another study, all right? The pronunciation of words correctly in Hebrew. So we have the Zadi. Before, if it's not at the end of a word, as in Eretz, all right? Eretz. Eretz. All right, which means earth. All right, in the beginning, Yahweh created the Shamayim and the Eretz. All right, the heaven and the earth. In the beginning of a Zadi, it's almost like it kind of looks like a stick to me, or It almost looks like a Y with a neck. All right. So let me make the distinguishment. Okay. All right. This is the beginning Zadi. I went down. It has a neck and it has a line. Okay. Almost looks like a Y with a neck. A Y, a backwards Y. A backwards Y with a neck and a line. And then make sure, don't put the line on this. Make sure you put that line, all right, on this line right here. Okay. That's a Zadi. That's what's going to be used if it's not at the end. If it's starting as in Zabiot in the beginning, all right. But if it's going to end in the final word, as in the word earth in Hebrew, the sound is eretz, sounded eretz, then the final Zadi is going to look like, all right, it looks like a backwards Y as well. But let me show you the distinguishing marks. What I did is that I drew a line and a line. Looks like a backwards Y, but it doesn't have a neck, all right? And it doesn't have a line, all right? It doesn't have a neck. See how this has a neck? I call this a neck. And it doesn't have a foot, all right, like this does. This doesn't have a neck and it doesn't have a foot, all right? This is a final Zadi. When you see it, okay, it almost looks like an ayin. And let me show you an ayin, okay? It almost looks like an ayin. What will distinguish an ayin, all right, let's see. Let me make this a little better. Let's see if well, I don't want to do that like that. It almost still looks like a, okay. Ayin, all right, to distinguish it from a Zadi, it doesn't have a neck. It still looks like a backwards Y, but it doesn't have a neck and it has a feet. All right, it's backwards. All right, so you draw a line as if you're finna make a box. You draw a line, go down. All right, and this area is shorter than this area. It would appear shorter. Ayin. Ayin most likely will not appear at the end of a Hebrew letter, at the end of a Hebrew word. All right, most likely in most instances. Ayin is used like an Aleph. All right, that is silent and it will take the sound of the vowel that's up under it or the consonant that's next to it. All right, so those are the final forms. The final forms is the kaf, all right, the mem, the noon, the pei, and the zadi. Those are the final forms. Okay, now I'm getting ready to close, but I'm getting ready to remember, I want to talk to you about the dots. All right. I want to talk to you about the dot placements. Okay. In the bet, remember I told you that the bet, all right. The bet, this will help you. All right. If there is a dot, it is pronounced with a V. If there is not a dot, it's pronounced with a B. And let me show you dot placement. In a Hebrew word, most of the time, okay, it's still a bet or a bait, all right? It's still a bait. Dot placement will let you know the sound. If they want you to use V as in Victor or B as in Victor, all right? When it doesn't have a dot, it is a B sound. Dot placement, the dagesh. We call it the dagesh, all right? Another one that the pay, all right? The pay, dot placement, all right? Okay, now in dot, when it's a dot, they want you to okay. When it's a dot in the pay, they want you to pronounce it like a F, as in Pharaoh, but it's a PH. If it's a dot in the pay, they want you to pronounce it like Pharaoh. And again, if it's in the final, as in Aleph, if it's in the final also, pronounce it like F sound. If it don't have the dot, you just say P sound, okay? P sound, all right? As in pastor. All right, the next one, the sheen or the seen. We have and what helps me all right. Thank you for bearing with me. This is what helps me, because it's sounding like sheen or seen or almost seen. All right. If the dot of the sheen and the seen, like it as in, you know how we say Shaul's name, Shaul, or you would say, remember it said that his name was changed from Saul to Paul. That's an error in translation. His name was never changed. All right. But some people say Shaul, or some people say Saul. Some people say Shatan, or some people say Satan or Satan. All right. Now, let me tell you why they pronounce it like that. If the dot, as if we was writing Shaul's name, all right, and we want the sh sound. If the dot is in the front, I call this the front, all right? I call this the back. And what helps me remember is seeing or sin, all right, is always in the back of it. Should always be in the back of it. So if the dot is in the back of the sheen, then we pronounce it just with the S sound. S, all right, seen. It is a seen. If we have the sheen in the front the dot in front of the sheen, then it's going to be pronounced with the sh sound, as in shaitan or Shaul. All right. Also, in my closing, I wanted to bring out also, well, I think that's it. I don't want to do too much on this study. Again, as always, listen, if you have any questions or comments, now hold on, I'm turning this back around because I'm not going to do any more writing. Okie dokie. Listen, if you have any questions or comments, leave it on this tutorial. All right, so I know what you have questions on. If you have questions on the other tutorial, then leave the questions or the comments on that tutorial. If you just don't want to leave the questions or the comments on the tutorial, then you can email me at pastorgewministries@gmail.com. Pastor, PastorGewministries@gmail.com. This concludes introduction to Hebrew concerning final forms and the dagesh, the dots in Hebrew letters. Let me bless the class at the end. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu Melech ha Olam Esher Natan Lanu Dorat Emet Vekai Olam Nata Betokinu Baruch atah Yahweh Notin ha Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Creator, Sovereign of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and planting within us eternal life. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who gives the Torah. May Yahweh bless you. May Yahweh keep you. May Yahweh's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Until we meet again, I will put the name of Yahweh on you, and Yahweh will bless you. Listen, everyone, Friday nights on Facebook at 7 o'clock, I go live with a sermon or a teaching. All right, on Facebook. Saturdays, my husband, Pastor Ted Q. Williams, go at 3 o'clock. All right, on the social medias, Facebook is one, Periscope is the other. Sundays at 11 o'clock. All right, then I do prayer on Sundays on Periscope most of the time, and my husband is doing a sermon or teaching as well on Sunday. So if you would like to tune in, if you want more information concerning the ministry, we are located here in the beautiful state of Orlando, Florida. All right, reach out to us. And if you have prayer requests, we will pray for you. All right. And so Yahweh bless you. Shalom.